Listen, guys, first of all, let me start off by welcoming all the new people to the channel. Thank you for joining the Dark Waters channel. A quick rundown on how things work here so people will have a better understanding. If you see in the comments where someone is saying, oh, all you're doing is re-uploading old content, yes, I am re-uploading old content. Mainly, number one, because we're growing at such a rapid rate. A lot of people need to hear the old content, and even to in order to understand the new content that's coming out. Second of all, Dogman encounters, which are like actual encounters with werewolves and Bigfoot encounters. I've said this, they're not as frequent as people make them out to be. And so we deal with true vetted stories here. There's no way I'm going to give you a true vetted Dogman encounter 30 days out of the week. It's never happened since the beginning of this channel. It never will happen. And let what you're saying to me when you say, oh, why don't you upload something new, why am I listening to the old stories? What you're saying to me is you want me to sit here and make up something and lie to you, and I'm not doing that. That's not what this brand is built on. It's not what this brand is based on, and you can tell what this brand is based and built on by the information that I put out into the community that's vetted by other people in conversations live, and they sit there and freak out. So you can tell that my Bigfoot information is 100% on point based on when I'm in an interview with somebody and you hear them say, hold on, man, how do you know about that? How do you know about this? And I tell them, no, I know a hell of a lot more, but I won't be disclosing it here on this. So, this rabid and fascination with Dogman content, if you are a fanatic to where you got to have it, you're not going to get it in that manner here. If you on it like a drug addict, you're not going to get your dope, your fix here. When you come get this, it's going to be that pure, raw, uncut, hardcore content. And I'm not mad at you if you go somewhere else and get your little fix on a daily basis. But this is not the place for that. You understand what I'm saying? With that being said, go ahead and enjoy the content. To all the new people, thank you for joining the Dark Waters family. If you want to hear more content, phenomenal content, check out iamdarkwaters.com, iamdarkwaters.com. If you want to read articles on things that are going on in the Bigfoot world and the Dogman world, go to dogmenencounters.com or paranormaloutlaws.com today.
For the last 2 years, I've been researching and studying Dogman, the myth, the legend, everything about it. Now, let me tell you, I've listened to over 1,000 hours of stories and interviews. A lot of the information out there is straight up BS. But there was a little bit more. Once you kind of digested all the bull crap and you look deep into the reports, you start to find these patterns: missing persons, pets being killed, blog reports on the deep web. They all prove to me that this creature does in fact exist. Issue I had for a very long time was following a lot of that information sent me on the wildest goose chase you could ever imagine. I went to Columbus, Ohio, North Dakota, Michigan, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas. But it was the activity on the border of Texas and Louisiana that really caught my attention. Small town, an incident showed up on 4chan. Two young teenagers were out fishing along the Sabine River. They anchored their boat right along the shore and fished out into the currents. Less than 30 minutes of them being anchored in that spot, they were frightened away by what they described as a brown werewolf. They said it stood up and walked to the banks and then submerged itself into the water and started swimming towards them. The two young men pulled anchor and sped away in their boat. Then I found another encounter that appeared on 8chan. The same area, a local farmer was having his cattle and farm animals killed. The police report said that he told the authorities that he saw a werewolf. That report never hit the paper or never hit any news. Two incidents within a 10-mile radius. I decided, hell, that's the best lead I had in a long time, so I went to check it out. Now, it took me about a week or so to get myself together just to travel down to Louisiana. When I got to Louisiana, I went straight to the river area. And it took me a while, damn near an entire day. But then I found a set of tracks. And not regular tracks, giant canine tracks. Now, before I go any further, I need you to understand something. I reached out to many people about this story, several of your most popular YouTubers. Their interest was only in the story, not me or the consequences of what happened to me after this, the health problems, the tax problems. And even now, I swear to God, someone is watching me. Not one of the popular Dogman YouTubers ever gave a damn about that. They just wanted the story. But this is more than just about my story. This is my life. And my obsession with Dogman has straight up ruined my quality of life. Now moving on. Once I verified that this creature was in the area, I left, returned home, and began to plan a way to trap it. You see, I have a very, very close friend of mine. His name is Jonathan. And there's two things you need to know about Johnny. Johnny is an expert hunter and a master trapper. Now, it took a little while for me to bring him up to speed on the whole Dogman thing. Then to convince him that it was real. And once I had him convinced that it was real, for him to figure out what the hell we could do to trap it. Johnny decided that the best way to trap this creature was to use nature against it. He devised a trap that he would submerge into the ground on a 45-degree angle. He said that this trap would use the forces of the earth above it, around it, and below it to reinforce it and make sure that this creature could not escape. And he was going to use a metal gate to hold the creature in place. And I'm going to be honest with you, when Johnny told me the concept of how he was going to build this trap, submerge it in the ground, put dirt on top of it, pack it down, I'm thinking to myself, this is never going to work. Two reasons why I didn't think this was going to work. Number one, the land in the area was all private, so he was going to have to get access to that private land. Number two, he couldn't drive the trap on the back of a truck from where we were to where it is, so he had to build it on site. But when you add in all the rest of the factors, I figured that we were dead in the water before we even started. A couple of days later, Johnny disappears and I don't see him for about a week. When he returns, it turns out that not only was he able to build the trap, but he's able to get access to that farmer's land whose cattle had been being slaughtered. Now don't even ask me how or what Johnny said to convince the landowner, Lawrence, to let us build a trap on his property. And honestly, from the beginning, I thought it was kind of suspect. But when I arrived, what I saw was absolutely astounding. Standing in front of that trap and actually seeing it built and constructed in person, I was excited. But there was a side of me that began to doubt all of this. You know, trapping a freaking monster? I was thinking to myself, this has got to be the craziest thing you've ever done. Where do you go from here? What do you do with it once you have it trapped? As I stood there, all these thoughts went through my head. Johnny could tell that I was doubting the plan. That's when he simply put his hand on my shoulder and said, "It's going to be all right, buddy. We'll get through this." For the next couple of days, Johnny, myself, and Lawrence spent night after night inside his F-150, waiting to see if this creature would show. But nothing. We baited the trap with pigs, goats, fresh cow meat. Absolutely nothing worked. That was until early one morning. Johnny said, "Man, maybe we should tranquilize a doe, tie him up, and put him inside the trap. That might just make this thing come out." I read online that they eat a lot of deer meat. And within 48 hours, we had tranquilized the deer, tied him up, and put him inside of the trap. And that very same night, we got some activity. Holy, that is a night I will never, ever forget. You see, the first thing I need you to understand is that this creature is fast, man. Real fast. Especially when it's moving on all fours. We're all there sitting in the truck, cracking jokes, laughing, hanging out, waiting for something to happen. When this creature comes zooming past the side of the truck. Have you ever seen something with your own two eyes and tried to tell yourself that you didn't see what you thought you saw? Well, that's exactly what each and every one of us did. It happened so fast and it was so crazy that Lawrence turned to me and said, "Am I going crazy or did you see that too?" And understand something else. This creature was nothing like what you hear online and you hearing these stories. It looked like a fox, A white and brown fox with a long tail. I mean long, exaggerated long, like somebody drew it on its body. Now let me tell you, it's one thing to read books and listen to stories about these things, but it's a whole nother goddamn story to be sitting in a truck when one of them runs by you. Seconds later, and I mean seconds, no more than 35 seconds, we hear the steel door on the trap slam close. Shaking, banging sounds of the creature slamming against that gate. Lawrence and Johnny both hopped out of the truck and took off running towards the trap. But me, I hesitated. Why, you may ask? Because I was afraid, man. I didn't know if I really wanted to see this or not. But by the time I mustered up the courage and arrived to where the trap was, flashlight in hand, what I saw shocked the hell out of me. This creature was on all fours, and when I shined the light at it, I could see that it was intelligent, and it was nothing like what I expected. It was slender, not muscular at all, and I swear to you, it looked a lot like a fox, except for it was just overgrown. It put me in the mindset that this was some kind of prehistoric ancestor to the modern day fox that had survived all these years. And the only difference between it and a normal fox that I really saw was the size and then the exaggerated length of these super long ears. As I stood there shining a light, this creature reached up and grabbed one of the bars of the gate, wrapping its long claws around it, and gave me this look. It wasn't evil, nor was it malicious. It looked like it was afraid, almost as if it wanted my pity. That's when Lawrence stepped forward and stood right next to me. When I tell you instantly, this thing's eyes opened wide with this look of recognition, but not just as if it recognized him, but that face looking for pity turned into a face of hatred. Its lips rolled back and it bared its teeth and began to growl. And that's when this creature turned its back to us and started to dig. I have never seen anything like this in my life. The sheer amount of earth that this creature was able to move and the speed at which it did it, within 120 to 160 seconds, the creature had moved enough dirt to where it was starting to pile up. Lawrence said, "Shoot it, kill it, shoot it." But that was never my intention. I didn't come here to kill one of these things. I just wanted to see it for myself. And as he stood there shouting, it stopped, turned, looked at him, showing its teeth with its head twisted slightly to the right, this vicious, mean, murderous look in its eye. In that moment, I knew that somehow this creature clearly understood what he was saying. And it also was at that time that I realized we had gotten ourselves into some we didn't need to be in. Lawrence was not telling us the truth about everything. There had to be way more to what was going on this property than what he told us. I turned towards Johnny, who was carrying a rifle. And just as I opened my mouth to tell him, "Hey man, I think we really need to go," and that's when we could hear it, this growling, roaring sound. It sounded like a goddamn dinosaur was less than a mile away. Lawrence took off running back to his truck, and on sheer instinct alone, Johnny and I followed right behind him on his heels. And as I ran, my chest contracted, tightened up. I started to feel dizzy. My mind told me it was a heart attack, but I knew it was just the fear. Something was coming, something worse than what we had saw in that trap. When I arrived at the truck, out of breath, damn near passing out, I stumbled in. That's when Jonathan flipped out. "What the fuck aren't you telling us, Lawrence? Something's going on. Tell us what's going on." You see, in the back of my mind, I always knew that it was something strange about the fact that Lawrence let us build this trap on his property. I just didn't want to admit it because I was so obsessed with seeing this creature. Lawrence, while driving off, looked over his shoulder at Jonathan and said, "Well, I killed one not too long ago. It looked just like the one that we trapped, but it was a lot smaller." The look on Lawrence's face was a mixture of fear, anguish, and sadness. "It was a mistake," he said. "I thought it was just a fox coming out of my chicken coop. I shouted, and I didn't realize something was different about it until it stood up and stumbled away." Lawrence went on to tell us that he followed the blood trail to where the body should have been, but he only found prints, huge canine prints. And in his mind, he thought it was only two of them, the one that he killed and the one that we had just trapped. And that's when Lawrence looked directly at me, tears in his eyes, and said, "Whatever that is coming, it sounds completely different than anything I've ever heard." Johnny and I had stepped into some we were completely unprepared for. This bastard Lawrence had lied to us. Had I known that he had shot one of these creatures or even tried to kill one, there would have been no way that we would have come to this property. You see, him shooting one of them explained why they were killing his cattle, his cats, his farm animals. They wanted him gone. We had just turned onto the dirt access road that led back to the front side of his property. Lawrence was now speeding 50 miles an hour in a full-on panic, saying, "It's coming. I know it's coming. I can feel it." And no sooner than those words had left his mouth, there was an impact on the driver's side. It felt like we got hit by a dump truck. The last thing I remember was the glass from the window stabbing me in my cheek and all over my face. And from that moment, things got foggy. I remember drifting in and out of conscious, the smell of gasoline, the truck being upside down, Johnny's foot shaking and trembling, and the pain, my God, so much pain. I vaguely remember Lawrence screaming, "Help me, help me." And when I finally was fully awake, Johnny was standing over me. And it's strange the things you remember in a moment like this. The grass between my fingers was so moist. His head was bleeding, and he was on the phone calling 911. Ambulances came, doctors. Next thing you know, I got IVs in my arm. And when I fully came through and became conscious again, I was told that I had 2 broken ribs. One had punctured my lung, a fractured collarbone. The police were there, and they started asking me questions about who hit us, where was the driver of the vehicle. And when I told them what actually happened, we were just driving down the access road and were blindsided by what I thought was another vehicle, they looked at each other and just walked out. Johnny came to see me a few hours later, and he looked like stitches in his head, his face all swollen and warped. But what he told me scared me even more. He told me that while he was sitting in the lobby of the ER waiting on me, 2 men walked in, and he asked him what were we doing trapping in the woods, and what exactly did we trap. Johnny said that he told them we trapped a big fox, bigger than any fox that he'd ever seen. To which they replied, a big fox or regular sized fox? He repeated, "We trapped the biggest fox I've ever seen." This time, they stepped closer to him and said, "No, you trapped the regular sized fox. Do you understand me?" Then they proceeded to tell him everything about himself. His name, his address, his social security number, his mother's date of birth, everything down to his porn habits. They told him to go home and to take me with him. And if we ever showed up in Louisiana again, we might just have another accident. This time, one we won't survive. Now, as soon as I was able to get in a wheelchair and get the hell out of Louisiana, I left. We went looking for Dogman, and we found him. But it wasn't exactly what I expected it to be. And as to answer the question of what or who hit our truck, neither Johnny or I actually saw it. Now, I can tell you this, Lawrence was never found. And the last I checked, his property was sold to some corporation out of Georgia. Now, I still listen to Dogman. Pit bulls have a bad reputation for the most part. And it's hard to get people to understand that dogs are a hell of a lot like people. If you raise a person in a bad environment, typically they turn out to be bad. If you're raised in a loving and kind household, then most likely you'll be a loving and kind person. It's really no different when it comes to pit bulls. How do I know this? Because I've been breeding pit bulls for 12 years. And yes, some of them are naturally aggressive, And in a few exceptional cases, no matter how much love and care you give them, the dogs are just crazy. Those dogs I keep isolated from the rest, and when I want protection for my property, I let them out their cages. Now, I have 4 crazy pet bulls, call them the Suicide Squad. And honestly, I had never seen them afraid of any person or anything. That was until I leased a house in Sparta, a small town outside of Macon, Georgia. The first night I let them out of their pens and they started acting strange, whining and moaning. Next thing I know, these 4 dogs are all hiding under the house. I'm standing outside on the steps looking at them like, what the fuck is wrong with y'all? Next day rolls around and it's feeding time. So you'll understand, I have 15 dogs on my property, including the Suicide Squad. They come from under the house, eat, then go right back under. Now I'm starting to get worried. So I crawl under the house, take a look around. That's when I notice. Not only are they staying under the house, pissing, but they've dug 4 deep holes in the ground. In that moment, I knew something was seriously wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was. So that night, I decided to stay up late and keep my ears and eyes open. 1 a.m. rolls around, and the Suicide Squad starts running around. Not barking, just running around in circles. Stepping out on the back porch, they see me, then start barking and growling towards the woods along the fence line. Next thing you know, all my dogs, including the pups, are barking, growling, going crazy. Then I hear this screeching sound. It sounded somewhat human, but the pitch was completely off. That screaming was followed by a growl. It was so loud that it scared the shit out of me. I run inside, get the shotgun, come back outside on the porch, and every dog is crying and whining. The Suicide Squad runs back under the house, and I'm standing there with the shotgun in my hand thinking, okay, there's something really up about this property. Standing there, I could hear something pacing back and forth in the woods, just beyond the tree line. And when I went and got a light and shined it in that direction, this yellow eye shine could be seen. Now understand, the property had a 9-foot tall wooden fence. This was the main reason why I rented it. The eye shine was above the height of the fence. Talk about being freaked out. No sleep at all for me that night. The next morning, when the sun rose, I took 2 of the Suicide Squad and went into the woods. We walk about 20 to 25 yards into the woods. These 2 bastards turn around and go back home. Standing there looking at them turn, tuck tail, and run let me know that that was the furthest I was going into those woods. The rest of that week was extremely quiet and nothing strange happened. But Saturday night rolls around. My brother picks me up to go out for drinks, and we get back to my house at about 12:30 a.m. When we pull up to the property, it looks like a murder scene. The wooden fence is knocked down, blood everywhere, cages with dogs still inside of them tossed all around, pit bull heads, limbs, and bodies scattered all over the place. Listen, my brother and I are sitting there in the truck like, what the done happened? When we get out comes one of the Suicide Squad from under the house. The dog runs up to me, brushes up against my leg, starts to shake and piss all over itself. The next morning, when all the dust settles, I realize I have 5 dead dogs on my hand, and 4 of them have been taken. My brother has found a trail leading into the woods, blood all over the damn place. We get my shotgun and the 2 of us go into the woods. About 200 yards in, we find one of my dogs torn to shreds, legs gnawed on, rib cage ripped open, intestines all over the place. My brother turns to me and says, listen man, you need to move out of this house today. Let's go get yours. You can bring the dogs over my house. I'll talk to my wife. Don't even worry about it. Now picture this. We're there trying to get all my stuff out of the house when the landlord pulls up. To this day, I can't even tell you if it was coincidence that he showed up or if the neighbor up the street told him that I was packing up to leave, but homeboy rose up on me real aggressive. What's going on? What did you do to my fence? Where are you going? Not only am I agitated, I'm angry, and I'm afraid, and I lose. I said, look, you knew when you rented this house to me that something was in them woods. You could at least told me before I brought my dogs out here. I lost $15,000 worth of dogs because of you. The look on this man's face told the entire story because he could no longer look me in my eyes. He only looked down at the ground in shame. My brother and I made 12 trips back and forth that day. By the fourth trip, we started hearing noises in the woods again. So we got my two older nephews to come over and stand on the porch with shotguns. By the time evening came around and the sun started going down, both of those grown men were begging us to leave. Now I was able to get the rest of my stuff out of the house and my last few dogs away from the property. But the landlord threatened to sue me over the condition in which he claims I left his property. So I told him, hey man, you welcome to sue, but I'm not going back over there and you're not getting another dime. Those are your monsters. You need to deal with them. So the concept of large, unknown creatures lurking in the woods has always fascinated me. Even as a kid, when all my friends were playing outside, I was reading National Geographic magazine. So once I retired and had all the time in the world to myself, my fascination turned into sort of an obsession. Working as a petroleum engineer left me flush with cash, so I started out searching for these creatures. The search took me all throughout the United States. And I'll tell you, my first 4 trips were epic fails. I got nothing more than mosquito and ant bites. The next 3 trips were disasters of epic proportions. During one of these excursions, I found myself hauling from a tornado in Oklahoma. But it wasn't until I went down to Texas and Louisiana that I started to get some traction. And by traction, I don't mean much. I got into some areas where I knew the creatures were, but even then, my experiences were limited to musty smells and the woods going quiet. Around that time is when I first ran into this gentleman named Skinny. You see, I accidentally wandered onto Skinny's property. Picture this, early one morning, I'm tracking along in the woods. No fence, no markers. I'm walking around and I hear a voice saying, "Hey, what the f are you doing on my property?" For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating. Looking around, I couldn't find the source of this voice. It seemed as if it was no more than 20, 30 yards away from me. So I raised my hands and say, "Sorry, didn't know I stumbled onto someone's property. I apologize. I'll head back out right now." As I turn to walk away, I hear the sound of a round being chambered in a rifle. Then I hear him again. "Didn't say you could leave. I want to talk to you." Looking around, now I see him, motion, 20 yards away, up in a tree. Now, I spend a significant amount of time in the woods, and I've seen camouflage. But what this man was wearing was different. It seemed like it damn near made him invisible. Mentally, I'm saying to myself, "Oh, Willie, this is a difficult situation. My shotgun is slung across my back. This man has his rifle slung across his chest, military style, which will make it extremely easy for him to raise, point, and shoot." As he moves closer and closer mentally, I'm saying no sudden movements. I don't want to give this guy any excuse to pull a trigger. 15 yards away, I nervously smile and say again, "I'm sorry, didn't mean to wander onto your property." The closer he got, the more information I was able to gather from the look of his face, the way he moved, the way he held his rifle. This dude was military, late 40s. Now, I'm good at reading people, really good. And I could tell that this dude did not believe a word I had said already. He comes to a complete stop about 12 feet away from me, keen eyes scanning me up and down. And he asks the question again, "So what you doing up here on my property?" "Well, sir, truth be told, this is going to sound a little crazy, but I got turned around. You see, I'm a Bigfoot researcher. And I was in the area searching for Bigfoot. There you go, I said it. I was searching for Bigfoot. Nervously, the words fell out of my mouth just like that. He looks me up and down again, takes 3 steps forward, extends his hand, and says, "People around here call me Skinny. You say you're a researcher, huh? Well, you don't know how many times I done had to run people off my property that claim they Bigfoot researchers. I had some researchers last year come out here. Went up to the northeast end of my property. I tried to warn them, but they didn't last more than an hour and a half out there. I don't know why people want to come looking for these creatures, but I tell you what, you come by the house, we sit down, have some coffee, and I'll hear you out. If I like what you tell me, I'll let you go back there." Now, I need to paint a picture for you. There are different types of eye contact that people make with you. There's very intense eye contact. There's nervous eye contact. And then there's sociopathic, psychopathic eye contact. I know this because I got intense body language training on my job. Skinny's pupils were dilated as if he was on some type of drug, and his eye contact was that of a psychopath. And being one-on-one in the woods with that type of personality just wasn't something that I was interested in. So the first thought that came to my mind was, whatever you do, don't insult this man. I tell him, "Skinny, I appreciate the offer, and I promise you I will take you up on it." And from there, my heart raced as I made my next decision. Do I slowly back away from him, or do I turn my back and walk out of the woods the way I came? Not wanting to insult him in any way, shape, or form, I took a deep breath, turned my back, and walked out of the woods the way I came in. 30 minutes later, I find myself back in my vehicle, sitting behind the wheel, realizing that I have no clue where Skinny lived. My encounter with him ended my trip to Texas and left me completely shook up. The next part of my Bigfoot journey led me to joining a Bigfoot research organization. I figured at least these guys would have accurate information as to the location of these creatures. Now pause. I know you're probably thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, this is long and drawn out. When is he going to get to the good part?" I promise you, it's going to get good. I just need you to understand everything that happened. Now, I learned a lot being a part of the Bigfoot research organizations. And by a lot, I mean I learned the things that really work in order to attract Bigfoot. They absolutely love red apples. Believe it or not, one of the other things I learned is that Bigfoot likes to be entertained. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy, but if you find their territory and place a tablet in the woods with auxiliary power and just let it play videos, I learned that they will stand there for hours right behind a tree looking at the screen. So I decided to join an expedition into the woods with 2 other researchers here in Tennessee. Now, have you ever been with a group of people that are nowhere near as intelligent as you? And I'm not saying that arrogantly. Promise you I'm not. But these dudes was dumb as, now picture this, we're dragging this gigantic burlap sack full of apples through the woods, a car battery, and an LG tablet. One more time, let me say that to you again. We are dragging a burlap sack full of apples, a car battery, and an LG tablet through the woods. No video equipment outside of this small handheld camera, and it had no night vision. We get halfway to the location, and now I'm getting pissed off and I'm ready to leave. And I say, "Listen, why in the hell do we have this car battery? All we needed to do was get a solar panel charger, plug it up to the device. It will provide more than enough power to keep this thing charged and have it run throughout the night." These clowns go on to give me an ultimatum. Either I do it their way or I can hit the highway. And you can guess what I did. I chose to hit the highway. So now I find myself frustrated. 8 months of searching for these creatures with nothing to show other than 4,000 miles on my car and receipts adding up to about $680 for hotel and food expenses. I was pretty much ready to give up. I'm sitting on my sofa, enjoying a beer and reading this Bigfoot blog when I come across this encounter in Texas. And that's when I see his name, D. Skinny Cozy. ex-military, Bigfoot activity on his property. It's actually the story that Skinny alluded to on his property. It was right then and there that I decided I was heading back to Texas to find Skinny. Now, the only thing it said in the article was that he owned 8,800 acres of land. But I figured anyone who owned that much land should easily be able to be found in the tax records. So I open another tab in my browser, go to the county tax assessor's office, but there's no property registered to a cozy in this county. In my mind, no big problem because I know exactly where I need to go to get this information. 3 days later, I'm on my way to Texas, and when I get to that tax assessor's office, I try to find him based on the location of the land where I encountered him. Let me tell you something. The minute I started asking questions about this guy, I noticed one of the employees, a heavyset woman, gets up and leaves the room. Minutes later, I see her peeking her head back and forth from one of the doorways, talking on a cell phone. I tell the other clerk, listen, I'm looking for this guy. I encountered him on his land. This is the general area in which I met him. It's my understanding that this man owns 8,800 acres of land. That means he has to pay you a hell of a lot of taxes. There's no way you don't know where this man lives. Now listen, I know when someone's pulling my leg. These ladies weren't crazy, they weren't stupid. They were stonewalling me. They didn't tell me no, they didn't tell me yes. They were simply playing dumb. Like they hadn't been working in this office for God knows how long. The stonewalling goes on for about 30 to 35 minutes when I finally lose my temper. Listen, this is public information. All tax records are public information. Just give me the information. Behind me, a door opens, and I hear his voice. Somebody said that you was looking for me. Turning around, I see him. It's Skinny Cozy. Yes, sir, it's me, Willie Pifford. Now, I can tell by the look on his face that he clearly remembered me. But in the moment, he played coy. Remember, I met you out on your property a couple of weeks ago. I stumbled across you while you were hunting in the woods. Me, Willie Pifford. How about you and I have some lunch? I want to take you up on that offer to come and hunt on your property. Minutes later, we leave, headed to this small diner to have a bite to eat. Sitting in front of Skinny, he had this strange air about him. You know, at times you can just feel that there's more to a person than they're leading on when they're intentionally trying to be shallow. And don't get me wrong, Skinny wasn't one of those people that was doing this out of fear. He was clearly different. You could see it in his eyes, almost as if some type of wild animal was caged up inside of him. You know what I'm talking about, the wolf in sheep's clothing. Sharp, keen eyes followed my every movement. And I swear to you, it seemed like this man was mentally swallowing every word and gesture that I made. And at that time, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But I knew he was much more than what he presented. And it was with that thought process in mind that I decided to just straight up tell Skinny the truth. Besides, he was the kind of man that would know if you were lying anyway. Skinny, I don't want access to your property to research these creatures. I want to kill one. His reply was quick, precise. The man didn't even flinch. Yep, I got him on my property, but I don't go looking for him. You see, I got a lot of land, enough to where I can avoid him. Then Skinny went on to question me. Hypothetically, let's say you do kill one of these things. What do you plan to do with the body? And as my lips parted to answer that question, he hit me with another one. Bam! He slammed his fist into the table. Oh, you are bad. You was able to kill a 2,500-pound creature. Tell me, how you gonna get his body out of them woods? And once his body's out of there, who you gonna show it to? Huh? Who is going to believe you? As those words came out of his mouth, his eyebrows raised. Fire raged in this man's eyes. You're not the first person to come here to my property with ambitions of taking one of these creatures out of the woods. The last two fellas who wanted to hunt these things, they paid me $5,000, signed a waiver, and I let them go back there. You want to know what happened to them? Huh? Do you want to know? I found their truck submerged in a lake. Never found a trace of them. I tell you what, you pay me $6,500 and I'll give you permission to be hunted on my land for an entire year. Now, to be clear, I ain't taking no responsibility for what happens to you. Don't expect me to come looking for you. It's thick brush and woods back there. And my house is not a hotel. So you and whoever you decide to take back there with you are on your own. Bring whatever you need. That's the deal. Take it or leave it. The waitress arrives with our coffee, and he watches me carefully as I add sugar and cream, then says, "Let me tell you something else. It's more than one of those things back there. 2 clans, 2 alphas, 2 females, and multiple juveniles. And if you decide to go, that shotgun you had with you ain't gonna do the trick." Then Skinny picks up the coffee mug with both hands, turns it up, and starts drinking and steaming hot coffee, his eyes peering at me over the rim. When he's done, he writes his address on a napkin, looks me in the eyes with this cold stare, and says, "Enjoy your breakfast. It's on the house." Then gets up and walks out. Wait, I said, "I need more time to think about this. What's your phone number? How do I call you?" Glancing over his shoulder, he said, "The waitress will give you my number before you leave." Skinny's behavior had moved beyond strange to straight up weird, and it got me to thinking, how important is this to me? Do I really need to go out and try and hunt these things? And what really happened to the last 2 men who tried? I sat there for the next 10 minutes alone, thoughts jostling back and forth in my head. And my thought process was rudely interrupted as the waitress dropped my plate on the table. Eggs, bacon, grits, and toast. Butter's on the table. This woman was short with me, damn near rude, as if I had done something to offend her. And before she walks away, she places this card on the table, saying, "Honey, you know Jesus had a Last Supper too, right?" For some reason, her words struck me as a threat, shaking me to the core of my being. My brain now racing, I could see it. I wasn't the first person he brought to this diner. The clerk, waitress, Skinny. These people were family. Looking at her, it was the chin and the cheekbones that gave it away. What the f had I stumbled on? And who else around here knew about these creatures? My gut instinct was telling me I needed to get the hell away from this place. And a small voice in the back of my mind kept saying, maybe, just maybe, these Bigfoots aren't the problem. Maybe it's Skinny. As that thought settled into the front of my mind, I hopped in my car and decided to drive by his address before I left town. And you know what was strange? 8,800 acres. It only had a small house on the property, no more than 1,500 square feet. Driving along that exact same roadway, massive ranches, big houses, cattle. His property looked like nobody was trying to keep it up. Either he was a bad neighbor or something more was amiss. A few days later, I'm back home. With his address, I search everything I can find, use lat, longs, historical data, everything in my power to find information about Mr. Cozy. Nothing. The man was a ghost. With 8,800 acres, that should have been some kind of tax record, right? Guess what? Nothing. So I go back to the Bigfoot blogs, this time with the help of my friend Jason and his wife Monica, both software engineers. We scoured the internet trying to verify the email addresses associated with the researchers who claimed to have had an encounter on that same land. They didn't freaking exist. Then Monica decides to contact one of her friends in California who has access to a federal land records database. Holy, that's when we find out that the property is owned by the Bureau of Land Management. She told Monica the reason why we couldn't find any records on it is because it's a black site, which is off the books. Then this woman gives us one of the most frightening and stern warnings I've ever heard. Whatever the f y'all doing, whoever the f you're talking to, stop talking to them right now. And as she's on the speakerphone giving us warning, my cell phone rings and it's Skinny on the phone. I had not given this man my phone number. He says, "Have you decided if you want to come and hunt on my property?" My phone is now on speaker. Monica is still on the phone with her friend. Jason and I are looking at each other like, what the f? And he's mouthing to me, "Is that him?" No, sir, I haven't decided. I'm considering it. I just wanted to do a little bit more research and take a closer look at the terrain. By the way, I'm gonna remember giving you my phone number, Skinny. How did you get it? His reply came across just as cold and cryptic as he did in person. Oh, I looked you up. Have a good evening. And then he hangs up the phone. Monica takes my phone and places it under the sofa cushion, gets off the phone with a friend and says, "What the just happened?" Completely stunned. All of us are sitting there in disbelief. There's no way that this was a coincidence. Not possible. No way in hell it could have been. From there, it only gets worse. Jason decides to go on to the deep web. And holy crap, we found story after story about people being baited on a private land, paying to hunt big game, and then they were the ones being hunted. We even found a story from one man who survived being hunted. He said the entire town was in on it. Now, I don't have to tell you that I didn't go back to that town, nor did I go back to that area of Texas. As for hunting Bigfoot, I'm completely over that because there was absolutely nothing that could have prepared me for what I discovered. Nowadays, I'm a proud consumer of content. No research, no hunting, no field work, no nothing. Now, call me Mr. Tinfoil Hat if you want to, but how can so many people be seeing these creatures and there not be one piece of real evidence that can be shared? Now, I'm not saying I have the answer to it, but I just think that people should consider that there's a hell of a lot more going on than we know about.